Hello and welcome to ReginaldESQ. I'm Underhook and this is my review of the French Tier 5 heavy tank, the BDR G1 B. So is it any good? Yeah, it's a really good tank. Very good. I'm really enjoying this tank and I'm definitely going to keep it. It does really well at Tier 5, does quite well at Tier 6. At Tier 7, like all Tier 5s, it does suffer. Its armor's no good at Tier 7, nor is its hit points. And it's got poor camouflage, so it tends to get sort of targeted pretty quickly. Let's get into the review. It has 650 hit points, which is the second lowest of any Tier 5 heavy tank, the lowest being the KV1 at 640, the best being the Churchill at 700. Weighing in at 38 tons, this tank is the second lightest. The VK3001H is the lightest at 37 tons. So don't go ramming any other heavies. You will come off worse. The speed of 30 kilometers an hour in forward and 10 kilometers an hour in reverse is on the lower side of average. And in actual fact, on Himmelsdorf on the flat, the best I could get out of it was 29. So the 30 is a tad generous. The track traverse of 24 degrees is average, and as is the turret traverse of 27, also average. Don't have a big problem with it. It's a heavy tank. It's not quick, but it's okay. It's not terrible. The view range of 320 meters is on the lower side of average. That's one thing I wish was better on this tank, would be the view range. The signal range of 710 is excellent and is the equal best along with the VK3001H. Camouflage wise, as I mentioned, this tank is quite poor. It's not as bad. Well, the worst would be the T1, American T1. It's not as bad as that, but it's worse than all of the others. So not good, and that's mainly due to its height, and this cupola is very high. And that drives me crazy. With this much height, a giant cupola like that, it should have a fantastic view range, but it has a less than average view range, which is a bit unfair from WG. But I think they're probably trying to stop this tank from being overpowered, because it is close to being overpowered in some ways. The gun depression is 8 degrees, which is very good, although it's only average for a Tier 5 heavy. 17 degrees of elevation is not too bad. So you've got the American tanks have better gun depression. The KV1 I think has 7 degrees, so it's a little bit better than the KV1, and the Churchills have terrible gun depression, so it does beat them there. Let's have a look at the grind for the tank. Now, as I mentioned, the engine upgrade is a good upgrade. It does reduce the chance of fire by 5% and increase the horsepower by about a third. The tracks, you definitely have to get the tracks just to increase the track traverse, because the track traverse isn't great. The radio, I have already done the light tank, so the radio I just went straight to the top radio. Once you get the turret upgrade, you can get the gun. Now I'm going to compare this gun with the Churchill and the KV1. So let's get the Churchill's gun up. Gee, there's a lot of gun selection on the Churchill, isn't there? So we'll put the Churchill over there. Then we'll go and grab the gun off the KV1. That's Chinese. KV1. Oh, that's the derp gun. We'll use the other gun. Alright. So I'll go through the stats on the BDR gun first, which is this one here on the right. It's a 90mm gun, which is bigger than the other guns on the other tanks. Has a rate of fire of 6.32, which isn't very quick, especially at Tier 5. It's fairly slow. Has a penetration of 135, which is very good. And it does an amazing 240 damage per shot. That is a lot. And that's one of the things that really makes this tank very scary for people. It has a very good gun. I can't believe there's not more people raving about this tank. That gun is awesome. The accuracy of 0.4 isn't great, but for Tier 5 it's not too bad, but I wish the accuracy was better. That's one of my beefs with this gun. The aiming time of 2.5 is not bad, but it does seem to take a long time sometimes. Now, when we compare this to the other guns, the Churchill has a legendary, very good high rate of fire gun, and the KV1 also has a very good gun. So let's have a look at them. So The Churchill has a rate of fire of 12.5 and the KV has a rate of fire of 12, both very good rates of fire, about twice as fast as our 6.32. So they fire twice as quick, which means if you're out in the open against something like a Churchill, it's quite dangerous because they can shoot you a lot more times than you can shoot them. Now the penetration on the Churchill gun is 145, which is excellent. That has fantastic penetration. 120 on the KV1, which is of course good, and we have 135. So we're sitting quite a bit above the KV1, but not as good as a Churchill, but still it's good penetration and you won't have trouble with anyone. If you decide to use premium ammo, it goes up to 175, which is excellent at tier 5. Nothing, you won't pen with that. Now, the damage on the Churchill gun is 135, which is lowish, but it does have a high rate of fire. And on the KV1 is 160. And the 160 combined with the rate of fire makes this gun on the KV1 a very dangerous gun. However, we have quite substantially more on the GDR. We have 240. That's a lot of damage. That's a real lot of damage. So it makes this gun hit very, very hard, and it surprises a lot of people when you hit them that they've been hit for so many hit points. It also means that a lot of tanks, like the KV1, are 3-shot kills. Put 3 shots into them and you've definitely killed them. A lot of tier 4 and tier 3 tanks are 2-shot kills with this tank, with this gun. And a lot of low tier artillery are a 1-shot kill with this gun. It's a very, very dangerous gun. Accuracy wise, the Churchill is very good at 0.36, 0.42 on the KV1, and we beat it there with 0.4. So not as good as the Churchill by a long shot, but definitely better than the KV1. Aim time, the Churchill is 2.3, which is very good. 2.9 on the KV1, and we come in at 2.5, so not too bad at all. So you can see here, the gun is good so long as you don't go up against their rate of fire. So the idea is, you really with this tank want to pop out from behind cover, shoot, and pop back behind cover again while you reload. You don't want to be sitting out in front of a Churchill or a KV1. That said, if you angle your armor, you will bounce some shots from these tanks. Definitely from the KV1, not as much from the Churchill. Be careful with the Churchill that you don't see out in front. The other tanks, the American M4s, especially at the tier 6 versions, can also penetrate you fairly easily, so be careful of that. But basically, I think I got the message there. The gun is very good, and if you use that strategy of not, staying in front of those two heavies and trying to pop behind cover and shoot, you will beat them. Other tanks though, like other tier 5, tier 4 tanks, you pretty much can just sit in the open and they'll bounce a lot of shots on you so long as you angle your tank. However, Matilda can still penetrate you, so be careful with that. But Matilda is pretty much a 2-shot kill for you, so it's not too bad. You can pretty much beat the Matilda just through sheer weight of damage. As you can see, I have got a mark of excellence on this tank, and I got that before I'd completed 100 games, and I think I'd done about 90 games where I got that mark of excellence, and I'd done about 90 games, and a lot of those games were me grinding the tank from scratch. So you can see I have a very good time in this tank. Let's have a look at Tank Inspector and then get into a couple of games. I neglected to mention the setup I'll be running on this tank. I have a gun rammer fitted to speed up the loading, also have vents fitted to speed up everything, and I will have binoculars fitted during the game. I have a small repair kit, large repair kit, and large first aid kit. The tank does not catch fire very often or suffer any great repetitive module damage, so that's a good thing. The crew wise, the commander is camouflage 100% and a bit of mentor. This guy has 86% snapshot. This guy has 91% camouflage. This chappie has 74% situational awareness, and this chappie has 74% repairs. Let's do it. So let's have a look at the BDR's armor in Tank Inspector. I'll go straight to the colorized view, and we can see that the hull is a uniform at the front anyway, uniform 60mm of armor, which is really good because if you look at it, it's quite sloped, and especially this heavily sloped section here. Now normally most tanks like KV1, when they have a heavily sloped front like that, they lower the amount of armor, but not on the BDR. It's still 60mm. So with the slope, you can see here it's 100 mils it's coming up as equivalent of, even just without it being angled. And the lower plate there comes out as a ricochet. The upper plate though is about 70, and if you shoot at the beak here, which is normally a strong point on a tank, it's actually weaker because it's still only the 60. So shoot the beak, or the driver's viewpoint is not weak, it's not thinner, but it's flatter. So you'll have a better chance penetrating the driver's viewpoint or the beak of the tank from the front. Staying on the hull, if we move to the side, we can see that we have, once again, 60 millimeters, quite uniform of armor here, and above that though is a weak point, which is basically, if we take the colorized view off, you can see here it's this area in here is a weakness at 30 mils of armor, so you can penetrate that quite well. Hitting it though is another thing. And above the tracks here we have this section here which is 40 millimeters thick, but it's very hard to see normally with the tank. So just in here is 40 mils. So aiming at, for example, say the turret ring of this tank seems logical because of that weak point, but the turret ring is actually quite thick, not that easy to hit. It's 80 mils. So really this side area, you know, if you kind of miss it, you'll hit the tracks as well, so it's pretty hard to get shots in there. It'd probably be by accident more than anything else. The rear of the hull, we have 60 millimeters down here, which is quite good. However, it's only 15 millimeters on the top deck, which can be hit from the rear. Looking at the, since we're on the top, 20 mils on top of the turret here at the rear and the cupola, but the front top section is 40 mils thick, which is really, really good. And it's slightly sloped forward, so that even if people shooting at cupola, the chances of penetrating this are slim. Whilst we've started on the turret, let's continue on the turret. The front section here, surrounding the mantlet, or the flat section of the front of the turret, is 80 millimeters thick, which is excellent. And as I said before, the turret ring is also 80 millimeters, but the front section, the turret ring is also 80 millimeters. Now, the mantlet on this gun is extremely tough. So if you look here, we've got 80 millimeters overlaying 80 millimeters. That is very tough. Even when we get close to the gun, the integrity of the armor remains. That entire mantlet is very, very tough. So we've got 80 mils and we've got 80 over 80. At basically tier 5 it's impenetrable. Even tier 6 and 7s have trouble getting through that. There is a weak point here though, and it is this machine gun. I'll show you without it colorized. It's that boxy looking machine gun thing there. If you shoot into that, that is 60 mils, but it's a dead flat 60 mils. So if you front onto the tank, it's only 60. If we angle it, we can still get into it without too much problem by shooting the side of it. So that is a weak spot. The rest of the upper turret here is 70 mils, but it is angled away from the front, so it comes out as equivalent of 104. Very, very tough and hard to penetrate. Now the cupola here, we have this hard armored section in the front of the cupola, which is also 80 mils, which is excellent. It is a bit flatter, but it's no better than the rest of the turret, so yeah, it's okay. This little section here is a little bit weaker at 60 mils, but it gets tough again at the top at 70. Quite hard to pen either the cupola, but it does stand out. It is big, so people will shoot at it. These purple sections here on the side are a little bit weaker, but they're hard to hit. So basically we have a tank that if you angle it, something like this, about 45 degrees, side armor here is coming up equivalent 84 to 90. Here we've got 86. Pretty good. So a KV1 with its 120 mils of penetration, sure it can pen you, but it will still bounce quite a few shots simply because, you know, you're angled a bit more like that and they hit the side and it's a ricochet. Or you angle a bit more that way, they hit the front and it doesn't go through. And the turret's quite tough. You do bounce a lot of shots, and lower tiers like tier 4, tier 3 tanks, you will bounce them all day if you angle. If you are flat, not so hard for people to penetrate you, but if you angle, definitely angle this tank. It works out well, and look, not many people are going to hit these spots. It's hard to hit. Very, very good tank. The armor stands up very well. However, tier 7, of course, the armor becomes like tissue paper, and you really have to resort to sniping at tier 7, and the gun with 0.4 accuracy isn't that accurate, so that it kind of becomes hard at tier 7. But you know, I always say a good game is where you've done your hit points worth of damage. So you've got 640 hit points. If you can do 640 damage, you've had a good game. Well, you've only got to land 3 shots in this tank and you've done over 640 hit points. And at tier 7, if you're careful, you've got a good chance of doing that. Let's get into some gameplay.
Time to roll out.
Alright, the map is Redshire. I'm in my French tier 5 heavy, the BDR G1 B. It's a tier 6 game. There are 6 tier 6 tanks on the enemy team. The rest are tier 5s and there's 1 tier 4 scout on each team. So a good test for this tank. I don't have my mark of excellence on the tank, so you can see it's an earlier game. I'm moving to a spot I have discovered that can be pretty tricky. I haven't seen anybody else use this location, so I think I worked it out all on my own. However, I'm about to blow it now by telling everyone about it. Anyway, as you can see, the tank isn't fast, but it's not super slow. The T1 behind me here has caught up to me quite easily. So the spot I'm talking about is actually just driving up this hill here. I see the T49 now. I decided just to have a shot. It went nowhere near aimed anyway. It was stupid to have that shot, really just blowing my camo. We've spied a Panzer SFL tier 5 tank destroyer. Look at that, 203 damage, which is below average damage for this gun, but it's still more than half his hit points. He only has 350 hit points. One more hit, and he's gone. So that's how easy it is to you know, kill a tier 5 tank destroyer with this tank. The gun is very, very powerful. It's almost like being in a KV-1S. Nice shot on the M6 there. It's almost like a KV-1S is at tier 6. The gun is, for a tank, is very powerful. So yeah, I go up this hill, and what it enables me to do, because often the heavies have a bit of a brawl here, I can shoot over the rocks and down onto the other tanks. This tank's a little bit slow for it. It works well if you've got a much more nimble tank, like a light tank or a medium tank. This tank is a bit heavy and a bit slow for it, and you need a bit of gun depression. But we see a KV2 tier 6 heavy coming in here. Now he is unaware that we are here. So we plant a really nice shot into him for 247. Now he probably thinks it came from down below there, that shot. He's woken up now, he's seen us, we've been spotted. We get another shot in, and we rely on his poor aiming time giving us a chance to get away. And that works out. Now we spot a Churchill. He aims a little bit quicker than us, but his shot bounces off us and we plant one into him for 218. Line him up again. Fire before it completely aimed down. We track him. It went a bit wide, but still managed to hit the track, which is not too bad, I guess. So you see it takes a while to aim, and we finally get the kill on him. So even Churchill 1, do a lot of damage to him. Not any trouble penetrating the front. He wasn't really angled. I would show you where the Churchill bounced, but I had a look earlier and I couldn't see a mark anywhere, so I don't know. But you can see we were perfectly angled to him and bounced the shot. Now he's got 135 pen, so I don't know really technically how he bounced it, but it does bounce them, as you can see. So the game is still fairly close. It's 8-9. We've done 1,240 damage already, which is pretty good, considering we've only got 640 hit points ourselves. So we've done pretty much double our own health and damage already. A little bit slow this part of the game, going up hills and stuff like that, but it is a heavy tank after all. I'm trying to use cover wherever I can, and you know, trees and rocks and stuff. Oh, ammo rack, yes, 601 damage. Oh, he would be spewing, poor guy. Well, that helps, doesn't it? Okay, there's a T49. Oh, can't get a shot on him. T49 can penetrate this tank quite consistently. I have been killed by a T-49 before, a couple of times I think. Where it happens is where, like this, I'd be travelling out in the open, like moving across open area, and a T-49 would be, say, behind cover where I can't return fire. For example, you know, concealed by trees and I can't see it because I don't have good view range. Missed. Yeah, in that sort of scenario where it can shoot you can't shoot back, it'll just rip you to pieces because pretty much every shot from a T-49 will penetrate you. There's an SU-85 coming. I figure if I just keep going through this water, he'll be unaware of me and I should run into him and get a good shot on him. But somebody else gets it. Darn it. That was mine. Alright, so I decide now to start heading towards Cap. I can see a KV-1 there on the map. So I'm going to head in the general direction of that. He should appear on my screen pretty soon. As you see the red box there on the map indicating that's outside of my maximum view range. However, that Panzer IV is now in my view range. But he's on the other side of the hill. So heading towards this rock, so I've got some cover across the field. Remember I said you don't really want to get caught out in the open in this tank if you can help it. You always want to have some sort of cover to go behind. Mainly because of the reload time. But as you've seen so far in this game, so long as you can duck back behind cover or conceal yourself again, the reload isn't really a drama. And simply because it doesn't take that many shots to take out other tanks. Just pausing, I was wondering if that Panzer IV was going to come out in front of me or move around. I know there's a KV-1 off to my left somewhere, so I'm being a little bit careful here. And we are capping. We have 3 tanks now and they have 2 left, so we should be able to do it, but KV-1 is a dangerous tank. So now moving up, I'm going to use the hill for a bit of concealment. I have got fairly good gun depression, so I'm hoping that I can still handle it from here. And we spotted the Panzer IV. I don't know if we spotted it. It might have been the T1 that spotted it. Anyway, we've got a shot on him.
Gotcha.
Someone else hits him just before we do. There's the KV-1. We have his rear. No, his front. Put one into the side of him for 272. That was a good roll. And now it looks like we're going to get another shot on him. This could be the finishing shot. He's only got 147 hit points left now. That's it. Game over. So that game was good enough for a Class 1 Mastery Badge in the tank. We did hit quite a few tanks, as you can see there. Let's have a look at the next screen. So we finished on top for experience and also on top for damage. Although on the other team, looks like the Hellcat managed to get a top gun and do 3,700 damage, which is an awesome game in a Hellcat. So luckily we didn't run into the Hellcat, because the Hellcat would be a dangerous tank. I don't tend to have much trouble with them, but that would be a dangerous tank against us, because if a Hellcat can stay concealed, it does do pretty good damage and would make short work of us. But he didn't. Alright, next screen. So we fired 14 shots, 11 of which were hits, which was pretty good. You can see we did miss a couple of the longer range shots. The .4 accuracy isn't fantastic. But out of the 11 shots that hit, 11 penetrated. So that's showing the excellent penetration. I didn't use any premium ammunition at all. I don't in the next game either, in case you were wondering. So, yeah, very good penetration. Damage, we did 2,321, which is great. 1,374 of that was from a distance greater than 300 meters. We received one hit, which did penetrate. Really? I don't remember that. Okay. Unless it was... maybe it hit the tracks. We blocked 135 with our armor, which would have been in that one shot from the Churchill. 7 vehicles damaged and 4 of them destroyed, which is a great result. 320 spotting damage. And as you can see, 45,000 income, of which 41,000 is profit. So very, very profitable tank. And at tier 5, a lot of them are, which is great. We did 1,045 XP. Raw XP, which was enough for Class 1, and that's a good sign. If that was Mastery, then you'd say, well, you know, not many people do well in this tank, but The fact that that's only class 1 means that there are people out there doing quite well in this tank. Alright, let's get on to the next game.
Let's go.
The map is Westfield. I'm in my Tier 5 French Heavy, the BDR G1 B. Tier 5 game, so we're top of the tree. The only things we really have to worry about is the enemy has a Churchill 1, a Churchill 3 and a VK, 301H. 301H shouldn't present much of a problem, but the Churchills could present a problem. The M4 Sherman could also be a bit of a problem for me, and maybe one of the hood tank destroyers, but really most of these T4s can't do much to me. The T49 possibly could, he's got a good gun, I do have a bit of trouble with them. Anyway, we're moving up. As you can see, not the fastest tank, but it's okay. Oh, I do have a mark of excellence on my gun barrel now, you can see there. Yippee. Oh, okay, we've just been hit for 73 damage by T49 that we can't see, worst case scenario, but now we can see him. We've managed to bounce a couple of shots as well. And there you go, half his health is gone. And that's the thing with this tank, that if you see the T49, he's toast. But when he first started shooting me, I couldn't see him. That's when I was in trouble. Now, he's just hit me again for 83. Someone else has killed him though. But yeah, so that T49 can cause you some real problems. I've been killed by them a couple of times where, like that, when it first started shooting me, I was in the open and I couldn't see them, and they just kept penetrating. They penetrate very well. But we did manage to bounce a couple of shots off him. And yeah, once you see them, they're toast, because you do 2 shots and you've killed them. Alright, so we're moving up. Doesn't seem to be a lot. We seem to have basically taken care of those 2, so now we can move up. The VK301H looks like he's got his back to me. He's definitely not looking at me anyway. Then we spot this Electo. I was lucky not to get shot by the Electo. Waiting for reload. As you can see, the gun depression on this tank is pretty good. He misses, fires at me and misses. And that one shot there took about 90% of his health. And someone else finishes him off. So looking at the VK again, but he's below the other ridge now. He's moved back. I decide to be pretty brave and just go over the hill. AMX 40 can't penetrate me in a million years, but he's actually over the side of the hill anyway. Churchill 3 is dangerous to me, but his gun depression isn't good. So I put one into him. He was pointing his turret the other way anyway. And the tank next to me also gets a shot into the Churchill. And he backs off. I'm just being a bit careful. There's 2 Churchills there. This is their tough tanks now, so I've got to be a little bit careful here. Alright, our Hetz is being killed. I decide to move forward and hope that I can get to a point about here where now they'd have to come over the ridge to nail me, which would be very foolish in tanks with poor gun depression. But it looks like that Churchill 3 might actually be going to do it. Yeah. That's a bit silly of him. He hasn't got the gun depression to do that. So we managed to get him. And there's an M4 on about half health. He fires and bounces off us, and we nail him. So you can see we've bounced quite a few shots. Good tank. Let's see if we can get this Churchill 1. Well, I was aiming for the driver's viewpoint, but it went really wide. It didn't go where I aimed it, but it's still penned. Luckily. And what's this? Pen? Oh, 38T. He's got no chance. Sorry, mate. So you can see it's a very powerful gun when you're top tier. The VK runner. Not today. There is no escape from the BDR. Alright, so we're on 5 kills. Can we get a top gun? It's 9-6. We're winning quite convincingly. They have 6 tanks remaining. I'm heading towards their base, because I figure they're either down here or up on the other side of the hill. And artillery's been spotted. Move forward a little bit more to get the gun depression. Wait for the aim, and we get the kill. And there's a Hetzer hanging around with the artillery. And someone else hits it just before us, and we get the kill. The T-34 hit it. He's having a good game, I think. Alright, so now I start racing down the hill So I see this T28 on the map, and then I realise, oh no, there's a T34 on the map there. So I start heading there. I figure I'm going to get another one because I've now got 7 kills, folks. So I want to get my Radley Walters. One more kill will do it. And oh no, the T34 gets spotted up on the hill where I just was. There's no way I can get back there and get him. Ah, such is life. Oh well, I made a wrong decision and missed my Radleys. End of the game. Alright, so a great game in the BDR G1 B, and shows what can be done when you're top tier. Doesn't always go that well, of course, but yeah, it can. Unfortunately, at the end there, I just went the wrong way. I didn't think the guy would have come up on behind us, up at the top there, and so I missed out on a Radley's, but still, a good game. That was obviously enough to get mastery, top gun and high caliber. Let's have a look at the next screen. So we did good damage, 1970. Not as much damage as we actually did in the previous game I showed you. But we did get more XP, 1209. And as you can see, we finished way above on damage anyone else in our team, and XP as well. And we did, yeah, a fair bit more than the other team as well. Alright, let's have a look at the next screen. And we fired 12 shots. Of those 12 shots, 11 penetrated, which is fantastic. All of them hit, which was great. We're probably a bit lucky there. The accuracy, a couple of shots went wide of where I aimed, but still hit the tanks, which was kind of good. 1970 damage, which is really good. Most of it was, you see, pretty close range. There's only 19 damage over 300 meters. Don't know how I did 19 damage to anyone. There's got to be something wrong with that. That explains why we hit 12 out of 12 shots, because it was closer range. Hits received 4. We bounced 2 of those shots, which is great. So we deflected 350 damage with our armor. We spotted 3, damaged 9 vehicles, destroying 7 of them, and we did a bit of spotting damage, 447 as well. Once again, really good profit in this tank, although we did also get a mission reward at the moment with 22. So if we ignore that, we still ended up with about 41 out of 45. So great profit, no premium ammo used. And there you have it, a really good tank. Oh, experience. 1209 was enough to get mastery in the tank. So yeah, really good tank. I would highly recommend this tank, especially if you like heavy tanks. It's really, really good. Thank you for watching my review of the BDR G1 B. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more reviews, please subscribe to ReginaldESQ. Have fun.